Good afternoon, everyone. So, I'm Nathaniel J. This is Alive and Thriving, and I'm super excited to be with you today, reading from Chapter 7 of Barid T. Spading's Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. And without further ado, let's get into it. The next morning, we took up the regular work of translating in order to get as clear an insight as possible into the meaning of the characters employed in compiling the records. In fact, we were learning the alphabet of this ancient writing. In this, we became very deeply engrossed with our hostess as teacher. We had been occupied in this work for about 2 weeks when we went to the temple one morning and found our friend Chander Sen, who had apparently died and been resurrected with not a vestige of old age about him. There was no mistaking him. As we came into the room, he arose and came forward with a hearty greeting and handshake. You can imagine our surprise as we gathered around and began to ask questions. We were like a gang of schoolboys turned loose, all attempting to ask questions at the same time. But the fact remained, there he was, with the unmistakable form and voice, but with not a trace of old age about him. Even the voice had regained the vibrant quality of middle age, and everything about him showed the quality of a well-developed life, buoyant and keenly alive. The expression of the eyes and face were far beyond anything that I could put into words. In the first few moments, we could do nothing but picture to ourselves the contrast. When we had first seen him, he was a decrepit old man, leaning on a long staff for support, with long snow-white locks, a halting step, and an emaciated form. One of our party had remarked when we first met him, "Here we find among these great souls one so aged that he seems ready to pass to the great beyond." Of course, the transformation which we had witnessed just a few days previous had left its impression, but with sudden disappearance had rather taken him and the incident out of our minds. We did not think he would ever come back. It was more than a rejuvenation. I can compare it only to the transfiguration of the one we love and respect so dearly. That soul was surely reborn. Judging from the contrast between his appearance the first time we met him and the way he looked this morning, it is true that we had known him only a short time, but we had been thrown into daily contact with him for a sufficient time to see and know that he was an old man. He was with us for nearly 2 years after this, acting as our guide and interpreter across the Great Gobi. Years after, when 2 or 3 of our party would meet and experiences were recalled, the experience of that morning would be the first subject brought up. In recounting these events, I'm not going to attempt to follow our whole conversation and record it word for word, for we consumed the greater part of 2 days in just talking, and I believe a detailed account would be tedious reading. Therefore, in this instance, I shall bring out only the main points. After the first excitement had abated somewhat, we were seated and Chander Sen began. As the body represents the lowest degree of thought activities, so the spirit represents the highest thoughts of divine mind. As the spirit is the outer expression of the thought, so the spirit is that in which the form takes its initial impulse direct from the divine mind. It is the immortal and real self in which reside all the potentialities of divine mind. The thought atmosphere is a real, substantial thing, and has in it all that makes the body. So many people consider the things that they cannot see as unsubstantial, and although they are told over and over that they cannot conceal themselves, they go right on believing that they can. Did Adam and Eve conceal themselves when they were hiding from the Lord or law of God? It is well for us to know that the truth that we carry around with us, an open book of our lives, out of which all men read whether we realize it or not. Some people are good thought readers, while others are dull, but all can read a little, and we cannot conceal ourselves. Also, Our thought atmosphere is constantly precipitating its slowly cooling words on our body, and there it is seen by all humanity. We can, with a little practice, feel the thought force of this atmosphere that surrounds us and gradually gain a realization of its existence as real as that of the outer world. And we have all been here. You have most definitely been in a room with strangers and felt anxiety and then had the perception that everybody knew that something was going on with you. Or you've been afraid, or you've been happy or joyful or in a really good mood, or you started dancing somewhere because you didn't care what other people thought, and then other people joined in and danced with you. The vibrations that you were sending out in all of those different scenarios are being registered by other people's subconscious mind. And it's kind of like a heartbeat. A nice, healthy, even, joyful, grateful, gracious heartbeat is going to send out nice, even fluctuations, changes in energy, pulses, vibrations. And those are going to ride out into the atmosphere as waves ripple away from a rock dropped into a pond. But an unhealthy heart, or an anxious, or a nervous, or a fearful heart is going to send out vibrations similar to drop one rock right here, drop one rock right here, drop one over here, and keep dropping them in various places. And then you got these ripples going out and intersecting with one another and competing with one another. Then the very finely tuned antenna of other people's subconscious mind, which they don't always, or which all of us are not always able to articulate exactly what it is we are sensing, but the subconscious mind is nonetheless sensing some change in the vibrational atmosphere of the room, and they more or less can, with practice, pinpoint where those fluctuations are coming from. If it's a happy person, a beautiful person, a joyful person, we know that the source of beauty is coming from there, or we perceive it as such. The source of joy is coming from there. I feel it, it feels good, I want to be closer, it's irresistible, I want to dance. But if it's fearful, anxious, twitchy, nervous, we know that guy I might not want to trust. I cannot fully put it into words why she rubs me the wrong way, but there's something about it, right? And it's those unevenly timed vibrations emanating from that person coming into contact with the fine antenna that is our subconscious mind, or mind in general, signaling us, ticking us off to, hey, there's competing frequencies of vibration coming in at one time from a single source. That's not harmonious. That is not natural. Something's up. Be on guard. Be alert. When it's harmonious and joyful, it's much more easy for us to kind of lower our guard somewhat and be like, dude, you've got great energy. I want to be next to you. I want to sit next to you. I want to dance with you. I want to talk with you. Those things come naturally when that person's radiating harmonious vibrations, and then we're drawn in. Their vibrations affect our vibrations. We start sending out positive harmonious vibrations back, and then those vibrations begin to intermingle, and pretty soon we've got this interconnected toroidal field feeding off of each other and providing for one another in a harmonious balance. You experience this when you get into love, and if it's harmonious, it's all good. But if one person removes themselves or withdraws themselves, you sense it. You're like, wait, why is this person withdrawing from me? And you make a move to get closer. You make a move to reestablish balance and harmony. That is the wrong approach. If you take the approach of, they're withdrawing a little bit, I will step back a little bit, we will find our equilibrium and our balance once again, but I shouldn't force it. Let me get my vibration smoothed out and evened out because I'm a source of emanation. Then you can achieve homeostasis and balance within yourself, then you don't have to be affected by anybody else's vibrations. Some people are good thought readers while others are dull, but all can read a little, and we cannot conceal ourselves. Also, our thought atmosphere is constantly precipitating its slowly cooling words on our body, and there it is seen by all men. We can, with a little practice, feel the thought force of this atmosphere that surrounds us and gradually gain a realization of its existence as real as that of the outer world. I have learned that just as man may touch the earth with his feet, so on the wings of aspiration may he soar to celestial heights. Like those of old, he may walk the earth and talk with God, and the more he does so, the more difficult it will be for him to discover where universal life ends and where individual existence begins. When man forms an alliance with God through spiritual understanding, the boundary line between God and man disappears. When this point is reached, man will know what Jesus meant when he said, "I and my Father are one." If you're there now, hallelujah, God bless you. I certainly say this on a regular basis. I use it all the time in my affirmations. So kudos to you. Keep it up. We are all one. The great philosophers through the ages have accepted the idea of man as a trinity, but it never was their belief that he has a triple personality. They have considered him a being who in his nature is triune. The tendency to personalize all things has degraded that which is called the Blessed Trinity into the impossible conception of three in one, when it can best be understood as the omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience of the universal mind, God. As long as men consider the Blessed Trinity as three persons in one, and as something that must be accepted even though it cannot be explained, they will dwell in the wilderness of superstition, and thus of doubt and fear. If the triune nature of God is spiritual rather than physical, then the Trinity in man must be seen from a mental rather than a material point of view. One of the philosophers has said, despising everything else, a wise man should strive after a knowledge of self, for there is no knowledge that is higher or that brings more satisfaction of power than a knowledge of his own being. If a man knows his real self, he cannot do otherwise than discover his latent possibilities, his concealed powers, his dormant faculties. Of what avail if a man should gain the whole world and lose his own soul? His soul is his spiritual self, and if he truly discovers his spiritual self, he can build a whole world if he is serving his fellow men by doing so. I have learned that he who would attain the ultimate goal must search the depths of his real self, and there he will find God, the fullness of all good. It is because man is a trinity in unity, composed of spirit, soul, and body, that in a state of spiritual ignorance, he has the tendency to think on a level with the lowest degree of his nature, which is the physical. The ignorant man looks to his body for all the pleasure he gets, and there comes a time when he gets from the senses all the pain that he can stand. What he does not learn through wisdom, he must learn through woe, and after repeated experiences, he will not deny that wisdom is the better way. Jesus, Osiris, and Buddha said that with all our understanding, we must get wisdom. And that wisdom is what you get from taking a step back from your physical senses and recognizing patterns in your life, tracing disease to its source, and accepting that it is not of God. when we're able to do such things and then begin to act on the lessons learned, all new doors of possibility open unto us. If you've already been down the road of weed smoking or womanizing or addiction, whatever it may be, if you've been down that road and had the thought or the intuition or the inspiration to stop doing it, like a month ago, you were just as content as a bug in a rug to continue on with addictive, abusive, whatever kind of patterns of behavior that you knew at the time or you did not know at the time, but somebody else looking from the outside in could say was self-destructive, was disease-like. And then you had that moment of inspiration where it was just like, I don't have the craving anymore. I want to be clear. I want to be done with this thing. And then you act on that. That is wisdom. And it is wisdom then to be able to counsel others on that visceral life experienced by mind, body, and spirit. It is certainly the spirit doing the gentle coaxing and providing the impetus of clarity, like a dose of medicine, to the physical body. And then it is the mind intuiting between the two, between the spirit and the body, the message, and then carrying out the plan of action to not repeat said actions again. When you've done those things, no matter what stage of life it is, if it's eating meat, if it's pornography, if it's drinking alcohol, if it's abusing alcohol would be a better way to say it. If it is being a workaholic, if it is using other people and manipulating other people for personal gain, if it is lying, if it is being deceitful, if it is being too much of a doormat in personal relationships and letting people walk over you, if it is allowing other people to emotionally or physically or verbally abuse you, if it is any of those things, and you get to that point where you're like, I'm done, and then you do take the steps and you begin a new chapter in life, over time, you're going to get very good at recognizing when those new chapters begin. And you're going to start to just know. You're going to embody that wisdom. And you're going to have that knowledge that I'm in a new chapter. And there are new lessons here. And new experiences here. And new wisdom to be gained from experiencing them, testing them out, pushing them to their limits. Absorbing all of the knowledge and wisdom contained within this chapter, and then leaving it behind for the next one, because this is an ever upward spiral of evolution that we are on. Or you could be on the struggle bus and be on the downward descending spiral of evolution through your own conscious thoughts, through your own seeking of power, and that's self, service to self. I'm not going to go on a discourse about the naturally occurring downward cycle of evolution at this current time, because it's complex, to say the least. But once I begin discussing Martinez cosmology, we will certainly be getting right into that. All right. Thought operating on the plane of the intellectual raises the vibrations of the body to a point which corresponds to liquid. Thought operating on the plane of the intellectual raises the vibrations of the body to a point which corresponds to liquid. On this plane, thought is neither wholly material nor wholly spiritual. And you all are going to get an opportunity now to meet the newest member of my family, who we have yet to zero in on a name for, but she's my little Snow White kitty cat. And she's a sweetheart. What are you gonna do, babe? What you gonna do? You gonna sit in my lap? All right, we will see if we can do this with kitty cat and lap. All right. So, it is vibrating like a pendulum between materiality and spirituality. But there comes a time when one must choose which one he will serve. If he chooses materiality, a world of confusion and chaos awaits him. He may choose the spirit, and if he does so choose, he may ascend to the dome of the temple of God in man. Ooh, don't step on the keyboard, babe. Come on. Oh, yeah, come here. That's a good girl. She's a little sweetheart, and she's not been eating because she's brand new to the home, but she's a lover. And so if everybody could send positive vibes, that'd be great. This state of thought can be compared to the gaseous in matter, which is elastic and tends to expand indefinitely. God always leaves it for man to say whether he will control his fluidic stream of thought in the direction of those celestial heights which bear him above the fog line of doubt, fear, sin, and sickness, or let it sink to the sordid depths of the animal in man. It's entirely up to us what level of vibration we want to persist at. If in thinking of man as a trinity of spirit, mind, and body, we consider him principally from the standpoint of mind or soul, we shall see that he occupies a position between two great extremes of mental activity, the lower of which is the body and the higher the spirit. Mind is the connecting link between the visible and invisible. Operating on the plane of the senses, the mind becomes the seat of all the animal appetites and passions. It is the serpent in man's Garden of Eden which beguiles him into partaking of the poisoned fruit. When Jesus said, "As Moses lifted up the serpent of the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up," he was not referring, then, to the raising of his body on the cross, but to the elevation of the soul or mind above sense delusions. Standing between spirit and body, though separated from neither, the soul or mind is capable of thinking even lower than the brute thinks, and it may enter into conscious union with pure spirit, where there is an abundance of peace, purity, and God power. When the Son of Man is lifted up to that realm in which he rises above the fallacies of the physical realm, he thinks and acts on the plane of pure intelligence. There, he discriminates between those instincts which he shares with every other animal and those divine intuitions which he has in common with God. I have been shown that when man thinks on a plane with pure spirit, the soul enters consciously that realm wherein it perceives the ideal of things, rather than the things themselves. It is no longer dependent upon the senses, but with clearer vision, it sees the broad horizon's grander view. It is here that truth is revealed by divine intelligence and speaks the inspiring and health-giving message. When the Son of Man has been lifted from the depth of his material world and has been surrounded by pictures of tranquility, beauty, and refinement of the mental world, after a time, he is seized with a healthy dissatisfaction, and the ever upward urge of the soul bears him to higher realms. There, he no longer sees the pictures of tranquility, but dwells in the land of tranquility, surrounded by perpetual beauty. He has glimpsed then the inner, and to him that has become the all, and the outer has become the inner. He lives in a world of causes, where before he moved in a world of effects. The spirit of triune man is pure intelligence. That region of his being where neither sense testimony nor human opinion has any weight against ascertained truth, it is the Christ within, or the Son of God in that Son of Man, the discovery of which sets at rest doubt and its discouragements. It is from this pinnacle of his being that man views all things with the clear vision of an educated soul. He beholds more things in heaven and upon earth than are dreamed of in philosophy. When he has learned that he is not body with a mind which is ruled either from within or without, but that both can be made obedient servants to his real spiritual self, he has brought into expression that God-given dominion with which he was originally endowed. Spirit is the supreme essence of man's being. It is never deceased and never unhappy, for, as that great soul Emerson says, it is the finite that suffers. The infinite lies stretched in smiling repose. Job of your Bible told you that man was spirit and that beneath of the Almighty Job of your Bible told you that man was spirit and the breath of the Almighty gave him life. It is indeed the spirit in man which gives life, and that spirit rules his lower activities. Spirit issues commands with authority, and all things become subordinate to righteous rule. A new era, wrapped in garment of approaching day, is dawning in the hearts of men, and soon again will the virgin spirit of God shine forth from the heart, and the door again will open, by which all who will may find entrance to a larger and fuller life. Young, vibrant, with perennial youth and hope and endeavor, the soul of man stands on the threshold of a new era, more glorious than any other that has brightened the sky since creation's dawn. The star of Bethlehem shone brighter at Jesus' birth than it had before, but soon its brightness will be like a noonday sun. For this new star foretells the day when the Christ is born in the hearts of all humanity. And we stand on that threshold now. We are there. We are at that point in time. Now, you can definitely take this right into your own life. And at any point, these words can be true for you. If you are endeavoring along the service to others path, and you feel the Christ consciousness coming online within you, or you feel yourself tapping into and yoking yourself to its ever-moving loving ways, if you are yoking yourself with it, then this brighter than the noonday sun, the Star of Bethlehem moment can happen for you at any time, here and now. But truly, the miracle work, which will seem miraculous, but is in accordance with divine right timing and preordained to be that which occurs, is when all of humanity is able to cast off the illusion that they're separated from God and begin acting in accordance with the Christ energy until they are bold enough and confident enough and sure enough to say, as I have been saying for years, I am the Christ. You will undoubtedly be looked at as some kind of less than lost your mind fool by those who you call closest when this begins in your life, lest you are raised like Jesus was with the Essenes, where it's already known, and it is through one's own curiosity that they simply facilitate its unfoldment. Nonetheless, that's not necessarily the society and the culture that we have here in the West. Therefore, what a beautiful occurrence it will be when we are all able to say this as I have said it, as Jesus said it, as Job undoubtedly came to know it. But fear not if you're in that position, because the people who are on the vibrational plane for which you're aspiring are here and now. And you will soon be in correspondence and proximity and communication with them. As you extrapolate from the lower primal mind and the vibrations thereof, you will undoubtedly start to cohabitate and coordinate and co-create with the individuals who are likewise aspiring ever higher. And surely I say unto thee, one of those individuals who is going to find you along the path is Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, Job, as they talk about in this book. Maybe it's Pontius Pilate, who apparently later on, through his own trials and tribulations, was able to come to the knowledge that he was the Christ and that we all are the Christ. That it is the animating principle inside of us that is truly the Christ. And that all we have to do is free ourselves from the illusion that we've been self-propagating through the trusting in our own strength by the sweat of our own brow. Namaste.